Hey guys, what's up? It's Adam here, aka Cena Guy. I know I just recently uploaded a video real quick about Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. I ranted about why I thought that film was so boring, went in a direction that I didn't particularly like, did a big old rant on Halloween 5 also. But I'm guessing, I think the newest reason why I'm reviewing H2O 20 years later is because I'm not going to lie to you, I don't hate H2O. In fact, there's a part of me that actually kind of liked the movie. I've got a lot of respect for this movie, H2O. Okay. I know many of you are saying, well, after Halloween 4, which was your favourite one in the franchise, you kind of went downhill with the franchise after that, saying that the films aren't going to get any better. If you was to point a gun at my head and say, right, after Halloween 4, pick your next favourite after that one, I'd have to say it is H2O. This is the triple feature Blu-ray, owning Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, H2O, and Resurrection. And I'm glad I have it on Blu-ray, H2O. I've got a good deal of having all these free at once, despite me not really liking any of these two. It was just worth to get H2O alone on Blu-ray, but if they're going to throw in two crap movies in with it for free, why the fuck not? This is my third review now, actually reviewing H2O. The first review I made when I was young and actually quite thin back then, 6 years later. The next one I reviewed it on Blu-ray when I first got it, and that was about 2 or 3 years ago. And now I'm doing my very, very last review on this movie for the third time. Just got done watching H2O moments ago, and I'm really surprised. You know, I thought there was going to be a part of me that says you're going to change your mind after all these years. You know, because usually when you watch a movie continuously or you re-watch a film, you usually get a different opinion on it. But I've got the same opinion on this film after watching it moments ago than I did, 6 years ago. 6 years ago, I said it was my fourth favourite film in the franchise, with Halloween 4 coming first, then number 1, then number 2, then this film. But I like Halloween 2 just by a pinch of salt more than this movie. There are several reasons why I kind of like H2O. I was happy at the fact that I was going to name this the very last movie of the Halloween franchise, and I agree with that. H2O is where it should have ended. It ended beautifully. What I like more about H2O than any part of the film was the last scene between Laurie and Michael Myers, the final showdown. Yeah, after all the stuff that happened in the previous Halloween movies, H2O ended beautifully at the end of that film. The final showdown between Laurie and Michael. The way it should have done. The two original characters. 20 years later, Laurie Strode all grown up, Michael Myers coming back for her, and it didn't end with just any random characters at the end. It ended with the two original characters, Jamie Lee Curtis and Michael Myers. So we just listen to that. There you go, you can see me a bit better now. Yeah, it ended beautifully, with Michael Myers getting decapitated with the axe by Laurie. And that would have been the most perfect way to end Michael Myers. Some people argue that some of these horror icons are invincible. You got your obvious characters like Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees. Is Michael Myers really one of those characters that can't be killed? Obviously not, because they fucking made Resurrection the most unneeded, unnecessary film that you could ever possibly make in a franchise. You know, there were so many points where I was going to end this movie, in the franchise, but they just had to make another one for money reasons, didn't they? After just H2O ended perfectly, where Michael Myers' head getting fucking cut off, it ended fucking perfectly. But no, there's somewhere along the line someone's got to make some money and make a fucking another one. But that's a different review for a different day, Halloween Resurrection. I'll try and get Halloween Resurrection up erection uploaded tomorrow and a few days from now. Now, H2O 20 years later. The plot's very, very simple. It's 20 years later. Everyone, including Jamie Lee Curtis's character, has grown up. Laurie Strode is now this teacher of this school. We learn that she faked her death, changed her identity, and she's tried to get on with her life since. She now has a son. She's got a boyfriend who's also a teacher, who she has a rocky relationship with because, due to her past haunting her and causing her grief and misery to this very day, she has, like, you can tell that she's showing some sort of depression because she's an alcoholic. But despite her past memories catching up with her, especially with Halloween approaching, she does her best to love her son, try and be a good girlfriend to this guy, but she's way overprotected over her son. You know, she's obsessed for his safety up to the point where she doesn't want him to leave her side. She's always thinking about him, trying to do what's best, but over obsessed with it. Of course, throughout this film, I don't think I was planning on making H2O at all until the last minute, because the film does raise some questions, not the type of questions where you'd say, why the fuck has this happened, why the fuck has that happened, but it does raise questions. Like, take, Danielle Harris' character, for example, Jamie. That's supposed to be Laurie's daughter. How come she never mentioned her, So she's okay in loving to a son, but not towards a daughter, Well, of course, Jamie's character got killed off in part 6. We know Danielle Harris didn't want to spiral for that for her own reasons. Apparently, there was going to be a scene where Jamie's character was going to be mentioned in the classroom that she's teaching, and she goes into the bathroom and throws up or something. But that scene wasn't really put into this movie. It would have been interesting if they did put it in the movie, try to see where we go from there, because H2O totally ignores so many sequels in the Halloween franchise. It ignores Halloween 5, it ignores Halloween 6. Because they said that she died in a car accident in one of the films. That obviously wasn't the case, because I brought back Jamie Lee Curtis for this movie. And for what I researched, Jamie Lee Curtis didn't want to do this movie because John Carpenter wasn't going to do it. But she eventually agreed to the idea, and they just come up with the idea of the fact, we'll use the oldest trick in the book. We'll just make her say like she faked her own death, changed her identity, tried to keep her son safe and keep herself safe. But she does reveal her true identity to her boyfriend at one stage in this movie, I believe. But anyway, the film introduces a lot of other characters, like all these other teenagers in the classroom. I wouldn't say I'm a big fan of their characters. To tell you the truth, I was more interested in Jamie Lee Curtis and her role in this movie, because it was just so nice to see her back. Obviously, it's 20 years later, because she was terrific in part 1, she was terrific in part 2. So it'd be interesting to see her 20 years later in this movie, and it was a pleasure to see. Because just like the first, Halloween 1 and 2, she really puts her heart and soul into the character. She really does. She expresses all kinds of emotions, like sadness when she thinks about Michael Myers, expressing obsession for her son's safety, expressing hidden feelings towards her boyfriend despite having all these problems about Halloween at the back of her mind. When Halloween's approaching, everyone thinks it's one normal Halloween, obviously except for, Laurie, Jamie Lee Curtis' character. She still thinks Michael Myers is going to come back for her, despite everyone saying that he's dead. And that's basically what it's about. It's just about Michael Myers coming back 20 years later to try and get Jamie Lee Curtis' character. That's what it's all about. But it sounds pretty straightforward and simple, but they pulled it off well in H2O. This film got a lot of crap, a lot of negativity towards about it, and I really disagree with it. Now, if I could turn back time or do some editing, I would name Halloween H2O the third installment into the Halloween franchise. So you got Halloween 1, which takes place in the streets and all that kind of shit. Halloween 2, which had the hospital setting. And then I would use H2O as the third installment. Scrap that season of the fucking witch and use H2O as number 3. It would make perfect sense. Because it'll be 20 years later, after the events of number 2, because we thought Michael Myers was basically ashes at the end, after burning to death in part 2. So you're bringing back H2O, which is 20 years later for the third film. And then part 4, part 5, part 6, etc. can carry on after that. Because it would have made more sense. Focusing on, Jamie's character. Danielle Harris's character. But obviously that's not the case. Nobody predicted that I was going to make a H2O during that time, But, I mean, according to Newsweek, it says on the cover, it's a fun ride. UPN TV, sensational, smart and non-stop scary. I find it hard to disagree with those statements because there were scenes of suspense, there were scenes of I'd say killings. There's not many killings in this movie, but that's not what I predict to see in a Halloween movie. I predict to see what Michael Myers stands for, which is being a stalker, and hunting down his victims, causing suspense. Not so much as like a gory killer like Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th, but more of like a stalkerish killer. And we get that. There's some good choices of settings as well. I like the scene where Michael Myers falls off the balcony. The scene where he's like in that room, he's tossing up all these tables. The scene where, Jamie Lee Curtis's character is yelling, "Michael!" and she's holding the knife, like trying to call him out. You just see a couple of characters get killed off, but not many. And I don't expect anything less from a Halloween movie. At least in this movie, it felt like a Halloween movie, unlike part 5 and 6, where there's when it was sort of involving, druids and fucking cults and all that shit. I mean, what kind of direction is that for a Halloween movie? At least with H2O, it had a reasonable story to bring Michael Myers back. And Jamie Lee Curtis just made the movie just over worth more watching. It felt like we was watching an old Halloween movie again. I mean, she stabs him with the end of a flagpole. There's scenes with all these different scenes with knives. And the ending is going to be the best. Because, I mean, the first half of the movie does drag a little bit. I admit that. The first half of the movie does drag a little bit. But there was a reason behind it. It was so that we can understand more about Laurie Strode's life, about what she's like 20 years later. It made you understand a little bit more about what's going on in her life, with a son and a boyfriend and things like that. It was throwing in new characters in the meantime, left, right and centre, all these teenagers. And at the same time, we've got the Michael Myers character coming back. And then the last half of the film, I have to say the last half of the film was more interesting because of what was going on. But the first half did drag a little bit, but I understand the reasons why. At least it's not one of those movies that just drags for the sake of it just to kill time. And just want to skip forward to the credits, if you know what I mean. The last half, with all the people fighting off Michael Myers, the scenes where Laurie Strode is trying to get this final showdown with Michael Myers, it worked perfectly great for a build-up to the ending. With the ambulance, and the ending was just fucking perfect. It's got to be one of the best endings in the Halloween franchise. At least in part 4, because we had Jamie holding the bloody scissors. Sam was going, no, we thought that was going to be, Jamie was going to be the next killer, but Halloween 5, they pushed out of that ending, so they ruined that ending. But I'd have to say H2O has the best ending towards number 4. Definitely. Because it was the final showdown. It was just right. Jamie Lee Curtis's character with Michael Myers. She cuts off Michael Myers' head. What better way to end a villain by cutting off his head? After everything, the final showdown takes place. Couldn't end any better between two of the original characters. Cutting his head off. That's the end of Michael Myers. It ended just nicely. No fucking around. Ended just nicely, and then the chapter of the Halloween films have finally come to an end. Ended just fucking perfectly. And then the cops fucking come along and take Jamie Lee Curtis away. But didn't even kill off a character. But Jamie Lee Curtis even said that this film was going to be her last one. Halloween Resurrection, they kill her off at the first half of the movie, if I remember correctly. And I don't think she really basically gave a shit. I think she just really does not give a shit in the resurrection, Jamie Lee Curtis, because, if you're going to fuck me over by ruining everything, then you might as well kill my character off. I frankly don't give a shit. Fuck you, kill my character off. And I don't fucking blame her. I mean, fancy just ending it nicely at H2O. You ended it just right. And then you make Halloween Resurrection, where he's not even resurrected. We're just ending the most worst fucking twist in the book. Saying that it was a paramedic's head that was cut off. Suck my dick. That's fucking ridiculous. But nevertheless, H2 overall, I thought it was a really good film. It's the only film I can name after Halloween 4 that was a decent one in the franchise. A lot of people gave it shit, I don't know why. It was something really refreshing, something really good and new. Yeah, it had an approval rating of 52% of Rotten Tomatoes based on 60 reviews. It had a budget of $17 million, made $55 million at the box office. It was officially released in 1998 of August 5th. Directed by Steve Miner. It took place in a boarding school in North California. Yeah. So there's my review for H2O, everyone. Sadly, it ends there. We're saying that everything was good apart from that. But Resurrection, I might as well do a review on that. I don't know if it's going to be uploaded tomorrow or a few days after that. I'll see how I have not the time. But I suppose I'll have fun ranting on Halloween Resurrection for different reasons, but mainly because everyone wants to see it. So that's it, everyone. Please like, rate, and comment this. If you've got any questions, please leave all your thoughts and comments below. Peace out.